Hello everyone, today we're going to talk about Seven Knights. This is going to be a tutorial, and what we're going to do is we're going to go over heroes that I would recommend if you ever get a selector. Now when I say a selector, I'm talking about not the Seven Knights selector, just your regular hero selectors. So usually you get a 4, a 5, or a 6-star selector. The game is very generous about giving out freebies and giving you good rewards for just playing the game, and I like that. So we're going to start with who I would recommend as a 4-star selector. I typically go for anyone that requires a light element to rank up, so a support character. So a good example is going to be for 4 and up. I like Yui. She's
Oh,
actually
yeah! Music time!
she's actually really good against Delins and Castle Rush because she prevents silence. So I try to level her up as much as I can for that. And she does have other good abilities, like she can heal, she can resurrect everybody. But when you're doing Castle Rush, by the time you need to heal or resurrect, it's almost too late anyway. But like I said, her passive ability is the reason you want her. Karen's kind of in the same boat.
Does anyone require my
The thing about
assistance?
Karen is her passive ability prevents insta death and death sentence, and that's really strong against Chris in Castle Rush. And then also, a lot of people use Chris in Arena, and that'll keep you guys from auto dying so quickly because she actually prevents it for 5 turns, which is really good. And the fact that she can heal and resurrect is just an added bonus. So, definitely another good pick. Another recommendation as far as light elemental heroes, I would say, or what are called support characters. Your support character you're going to want to is Lena. She's good for raid and she's good for Castle Rush just in general. What's good about her is one, she decreases the attack and defense of all enemies by 25%, so you're dealing more damage and you're taking less damage. On top of that, she has an active skill that allows your people to increase their damage by 50% for 2 turns. So that's why you want her. She can also heal, but that's not why you have her. That's just an added bonus. I think there's one more that I want to mention too, Charon. The good thing about Charon is the fact that he's mainly good in raid. That's the only reason to really use him. His passive ability prevents stun for 6 turns, and the dragon, who is basically the raid boss all the time, has an active skill that'll stun all your heroes. So you definitely want him to be in your team. So I would also recommend picking him if you have the opportunity. Now, since I did mention the raid, there is one more hero that I would also recommend picking. I would really only recommend him for a 6-star, but I'll get to him in a moment, and I'll explain when I get to the 6 stars. But there is someone else that also prevents stun, but unfortunately he's universal, and we don't do universals for 4 stars. So you'll see why soon enough. Now, as far as anyone that is 5-star selectors or above, there are two that I mainly recommend. The first one, right there, that's Gipperang. He is one of the best people in Arena right now. He is only 5-star or up. You can't get him as a 4-star or less. So that's why I'm picking him as a 5-star, a hero that I would pick as far as a selector is concerned. He's just really good in Arena. When he dies, he auto revives with increased crit counter rate, and that increases by a lot. He's also invincible for those 3 turns that he's resurrected for. So he is just fantastic. Just you want him as your top pick, if for Arena, of course. Now for Castle Rush, there is one other that I would recommend that's 5 or above, and that's her.
Oh my, units and new
This
items.
is Alice. The reason you want her for Raid and Castle Rush is because her passive ability increases all damage inflicted on the enemy by 40%. That's very important. Basically, you want to do as much damage as you can during Castle Rush so that your guild can get more guild points to level up their guild and level up their castle. So I think she's really good for that. If you don't have her, you happen to have Ace, who is a Warlord. He does something similar, plus he is a bit better in general. But if you don't have Ace, she's definitely the next one to use because it's a passive ability that increases the damage. So she doesn't have to do anything special. She just has to be there, which is awesome. She can heal, and when she heals, she removes debuffs, so that can be nice. That can be convenient. And then she also has the ability to resurrect, which I usually happens one time for me in Castle Rush, maybe once or twice in raid. But when she resurrects someone, they're basically invincible for 2 turns with increased physical and magic attacks. So that's really nice too. So it's all around really good support character for Raid and Castle Rush. So if you already have Gipper and you want another one that you can only get as a 5 star or above, Alice would be my next recommendation. As far as 6 stars, so my recommendation for 6 stars is to pick any good hero for whatever you need that is universal, which means requires a dark element to rank up. Now, the reason I say you should only pick these as 6 stars is because the game often will give you some Seven Knights and Four Lords here and there for participating in certain things or just being, a player for so long. So you're going to want to use your dark elements on those Seven Knights that you get. And because of all the dark elements you're going to need, you're not going to really have enough most of the time unless you spend money to get any other universal that's not a Seven Knight or Four Lord. So that's why I say your 6 star picks should be people that are universal because those are just harder to come by because you already have it dedicated for your Seven Knights and Four Lords. So my number one pick is going to be Neza.
Come at me if you can.
She's really good in Arena. She has Jave's passive ability to reflect damage. She reflects it by 40%. So she reduces the damage and then reflects it back at them. So you're going to be dealing damage without having to lift a finger, which is awesome. And she also has one of Ace's um, passive abilities as well, who's a Four Lord. And what this is if the damage received is higher than the current hit points, survives with 1 hit point. So instead of just dying whenever she gets hit for the kill, she still stays alive to deal more damage to other people, which is awesome. So she is really good in Arena. I use her a lot. She's one of the reasons that I'm actually currently in Platinum for Arena. I highly recommend her. She's also invincible, I believe. Oh no, she's not. Okay, never mind. She just reduces damage. No, that's right. She wouldn't need to be invincible. She does also have piercing, which is nice. And on top of that, she's the only one that can switch the formations of your enemies. So that's kind of cool and unique. And then she also does damage to 3 people and stuns them. And stuns a good mechanic as well. It just keeps them from doing anything, and you can just take advantage of them. But yeah, as far as 6 stars that are universal, she is my number one pick. And this is only for Arena. Now, there is one more that I would recommend, but I don't actually have him. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to go to the Codex, and then I'll show you him from there. I want to say he's... no, he's not Asgard. He's normal. Go back. He's a Crusader. There he is. His name is Sieg. Basically, he protects all allies from being stunned for 6 turns. The reason he's my number 2 pick is mainly because, one, he's universal, so I'm not going to have the elements to use him because I'm using him on my 7 Knights. So he's good for raid. Basically, he's going to make sure that those dragons don't stun you. Now, if you have Charon, that's nice, but when you're doing raid, you actually have 2 teams. So you put Charon on one team and you put Seek on the other. So when both of your teams come out, team 1 will do their thing and they're not affected by stun for a while. And then when that team dies, your next team comes in with the other person that prevents stun, and you're good dealing damage for a while. So that's why Sieg's a good 6-star pick as well. I would still recommend Neza first. But if you don't care about Arena, but you care about raids, then definitely pick him. Now, don't get me wrong, too. The 5-star ones that I told you about, like Gipperang, if you pick him as your 6-star selector as well, I wouldn't be upset about that because he is really, really good. So whoever I told you about as a 5-star pick, definitely pick as a 6-star pick, especially if you happen to like them more. Or if you already have the other heroes I recommended, definitely do that. Now, there is one other hero that I haven't mentioned. That's going to be Black Rose. You can pick her as a 4-star or up, but she is another one that I would say is a good choice. She's not universal, I believe she's offensive. Yeah. So she would require a fire element to rank up if you have her as a 4 or 5-star. What's good about her is her passive is decent. She's untargetable for a while. She reduces 5-target AoE attacks by 50%. She's immune to debuffs. She's just really good. And this is for 3 turns. And this applies to ignore armor and piercing attacks. So she's really good on the defense. And on the offense, she does physical damage to three people, decreases their buff duration for 2 turns, and bleeds the target. Very important ability. One, bleed is good because a lot of people have immunity. So if you want to be able to deal damage, sometimes you need to find a status element. Bleed's one of the best ones because it just drains their hit points as they do actions. So you definitely want her, and the fact that she decreases buff durations, that's important because since Gipperang is so strong and Chris is so strong, they both have the ability to auto revive for, like 3 turns. So when she does this ability right here, she knocks off 2 of those 3 turns, which means they'll actually die sooner. Because when they're invincible, you're not really doing nothing. So when she does that, she's really good against Chris and Gipperang. So yeah, definitely pick her. And she also deals physical damage to 2 people and pierces, so it gets around immunities and stuff. So yeah, definitely another top pick for me. 4 star up if you're not into like the supports or you already have everybody else that I mentioned. She's really like I said, MVP as far as arena as well. Gipperang and her definitely good to have on the same team. So there you have it. Those are all my recommendations. And I guarantee you, if you put them in your arena or your Castle Rush or your raid teams, as I've described, I guarantee you your team is going to be doing a lot better. So now there are other mentions that I haven't went through, as I'm not going to talk about everybody, but those are the main ones that I would pick as a selector. So go ahead and have fun with your gaming. We'll see you guys next time.